I'm going to do a brief introduction to phrasal verbs, which is Unit 28 in our textbook. So phrasal verbs are verbs that are formed with two or more words. You have a verb and a particle. Particle basically looks like a preposition, but when it's combined with a verb, it changes the meaning of the single verb by itself. Sometimes you have more than one particle with a verb, so we could have a phrasal verb with three words. I'm going to read from the textbook, page 391, the grammar and context, and go over the phrasal verbs as I read through it. When he whispers, they tune in. What do you do when your dog takes over the dog park and attacks other dogs? Or when it gets lazy and won't get up and take a walk? When pet owners are ready to give up, many of them call Caesar Milan the dog whisperer. So in that first paragraph we have three phrasal verbs, takes over, get up, and the infinitive of to give up. Takes over essentially means to dominate. Get up, you probably know, it means to stand up, wake up, whatever, depending on the context. And give up means to quit or to stop trying. The second paragraph. Milan is famous for helping out celebrities like Oprah when they have problems with their pets. He also works with the problem pets of ordinary people. He usually goes into their homes to figure out the problems. Sometimes he can't help the dog at its home, so he brings it to his ranch outside Los Angeles. There, Milan works with animals with more serious problems. His training turns their lives around. So in this paragraph you see help out. He is famous for helping out. We're using the gerund form of the phrasal verb help out. And in this case, help out simply means the same thing as help. So you might ask, why do we have help out if we can just use help? And I don't know the answer to that, but for some reason in English we often add particles to verbs and use those as phrasal verbs. So, and as they mention in the grammar notes, the phrasal verbs are less formal, they're more casual, they're more used in everyday conversation. A lot of times we have formal one-word verbs that mean the same thing, and in an academic or formal setting you would ordinarily use the regular verb instead of the phrasal verb. So again, in the second paragraph, to figure out, the formal word that means the same thing would be to solve or to resolve, in this case to solve the problem. And then in the last sentence you see his training turns their lives around. Turns around means that it improves. Usually it means it improves in a major way, or dramatically improves their lives. So it's not just a small improvement but a large improvement. And you'll notice in this case that we have their lives between turn and around. Turn around is the phrasal verb, but we have the object in between those two parts of the phrasal verb, the verb and the particle. With phrasal verbs we can have transitive phrasal verbs or intransitive. Transitive means it takes an object. Intransitive means there is no object. In this case, turns around their lives. That is a phrasal verb that takes an object, which in this case is their lives. When we have that direct object, very often we can either put the object after the phrasal verb, after the particle, or we can put it between the verb and the particle. And if you use a pronoun like it, him, her, or whatever, that pronoun must go between the verb and the particle for any phrasal verbs that are transitive, that take an object. The third paragraph, but what if you don't live in LA? No problem, just turn on the TV. Fans of Milan's show the dog whisperer, watch every week as Milan straightens out a bad dog and its owner. When Milan rings the doorbell, he learns about the dog and its family for the first time. By the end of the show, a miracle has happened. The angry or frightened dog now obeys its owner's commands to get off the couch, walk quietly, and sit down. Not everybody admires Milan. Some believe that his ideas about dog psychology are too simple. Others say that real change doesn't happen in an hour. These critics haven't stopped Milan's fans, however. They keep on tuning in for the weekly miracles. So there are several more phrasal verbs in those last couple of paragraphs. Turn on, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Turn on the TV, turn on the radio, turn on the heat, turn on the air conditioning, right? All of those. Straightens out means to basically change the behavior in a positive way. Change the behavior in a positive way of someone or something. And then I think you know what get off the couch means. And sit down, you obviously know what that means, both phrasal verbs. And then finally in the last paragraph, keep on tuning in. Keep on means to continue tuning in. So there are a few examples of phrasal verbs in that grammar and context article. And if you move over to the grammar presentation, you'll see an explanation, some of which I've already given you essentially. Some of the common particles in phrasal verbs are on, off, up, down, in, and out. And on page 394, they talk about the transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, as I mentioned earlier. They give an example of an intransitive phrasal verb. Caesar Milan grew up in Mexico. There is no object for the phrasal verb grew up, therefore it's intransitive. Another example is that they have, the second one is he never gives up. He never gives up. There is no object after gives up, so it's an intransitive phrasal verb. I'm going to go over a couple of the exercises, page 395, and you should do them on your own before you listen to this part of the video. But just to save a little time in class, Milan and his dogs start on their walk early in the morning. So basically we want the phrasal verb that means start, and that would be set out as they give you their F. 2 is the dogs never fight because they all have a good relationship. And have a good relationship, the phrasal verb that means that is E, get along. We use the phrasal verb get along in many contexts. For example, you talk about whether your children get along, or whether you get along well with your boss, or your neighbors, or your co-workers. So those are very common uses of get along. Number 3, Milan became an adult in Mexico. That's a very awkward sentence. No one would ever say it that way, because we would use the phrasal verb. We would say that Milan grew up in Mexico, just like the example on the previous page. Number 4, on the farm, he first discovered that he had a special ability. Right, so we're looking for the phrasal verb that means discovered, and that would be he found out. He found out that he had a special ability. Number 5, he showed owners how to help their dogs become less excited. Become less excited, again, isn't a very common way of saying it, and that would be, in the phrasal verb, would be calm down. So he showed owners how to help their dogs calm down. Again, the same can apply to children. Sometimes your children are very hyperactive or very excited, overly excited about something, and you want them to calm down. And then 6, Milan started his business after he learned English. And here, started, the phrasal verb is set up. He set up his business. So set up is a common phrasal verb used in a business or in a very everyday way. We set up tables. Maybe we're having a party. We set up tables and things like that. So I think that's all for now. I've gone up to 10 minutes, and that I think is long enough for this video. So I might do some more on this, or I might just move on to another topic. We'll see.